Hello everybody, welcome into our latest live broadcast. Today it's the 21st of June, 2025, the longest day of the year. Summer solstice, the start of summer. And it's a hot one out there for a lot of you around the world today, so I'm not probably going to get much sympathy about the temperature in Phoenix today at 105, but I know, it's a dry heat. Yeah, so is fire. Welcome in on this Saturday broadcast. I wasn't sure what my schedule would be this weekend, but it turns out I was available to make a video, and today I'm going to remake or redo the video on setting up the little NanoKVM as a project. When we did this live, I'd never done it before. I couldn't find any videos or any walkthroughs anywhere on the internet. So whenever that happens, as they say, necessity is the mother of invention. It didn't occur to me to make one until I realized nobody had made a walkthrough. So I said, let's do it together. And we stumbled a lot. And I had some misunderstanding with the Rufus application and the download I was downloading. The good news is it did end up putting me in touch with the creator of Rufus. And it was a nice enough person to answer my questions, but also very stubborn in that basically this is my project, this is how I'm doing it. I don't care if you like it or not. That wasn't exactly what he said, but I respect that, right? Because I had some mild suggestions for improvement. He wasn't having it. He's like, nope, no. And, you know, things like you could make this a little easier. Well, Rufus isn't designed to hold people's hand. But why is that so bad? Why is it bad to hold people's hand? But that's his project, and I appreciate it, and I do like Rufus. However, because of he's just not open-minded. It's his tool. It's perfect the way it is, and the problem is with everybody else. I respect that he's absolutely right. He could be more accommodating. He doesn't want to be. So he doesn't have to be. And I still like using Rufus for making Windows install disks. However, there is some issue, especially when you go researching using this Rufus utility in the Linux community. There's some inconsistency. And, you know, is this a consumer education issue? And should they read the documentation? Or could Rufus do a better job? Or could Rufus perhaps make the issue clearer? And you know, I want to be very clear on this. The person who created Rufus did not need to respond to me, and I do appreciate that they did. This is not meant to take a dig at them. This is meant for me to establish if this is the way it's going to be, then it may not be an ideal product when you are trying to make Linux images. If there's no consistency and there's no willingness to help, you know, the willingness to help is go read your log files, go do your research. Well, thanks for the help. You know, there's not even and by the way, he's not obligated to even respond. See, this is the problem when you respond to people. Sometimes they might go, well, what a jerk. Whereas if you never responded at all, well, they just figure it out on their own, which is what you told them to do, right? So not responding, leaving somebody else to figure it out on their own, versus telling somebody else you need to figure that out on your own. The end result for the person asking the question is the same, but the impression and perhaps the nastiness feels like almost like an attack. Like, geez, sorry I asked for help. I need a life preserver. Well, why don't you learn to swim? Okay. So for this project, we're using a different product called Etcher to make our memory card. And it's not because Rufus doesn't work. It's just Etcher's easier to use. Etcher does hold your hand, and Rufus thinks for some reason holding your hand is a bad thing. I don't understand why, but the creator is allowed to make their creation however they want. I appreciate they heard me out. They don't have to agree with me. And for that reason, you know, I was giving him every chance for me to stay loyal to Rufus. I've loved that product for a long time. It is free. You get what you pay for. But for making Windows-based images, Rufus is great. If you research making Linux-based images with it, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Is it a Rufus issue? Is it an image issue? Is it an end user issue? Figure it out yourself. So there we are. Welcome in, friends. Good to see everybody. I see Buster's joining us there in the chat room. And the other day, yesterday, I got a birthday gift in the mail from Buster, which is really cool. I want to show it to you. This is when they show the film, the Star Wars movie, or any film. Well, maybe not anymore because it's all digital. But back in the day, you'd have numerous giant reels. And the reels hold, I think, 15 or 20 minutes of film, and then the projectionist has to change the reels or set up the next reel. I think it automatically plays when it hits a little black dot that appears on one of the frames. Anyway, after the film airs, what do they do with all of these reels of film that go out to all the theaters? And someone got it in their head, at least on the successful movies like Star Wars, to cut the frames up and sell them as a collector's item. So it's not that like this is the original print of Star Wars, but rather it is an original. These frames come from an original theater projection reel, of which, look, there wasn't any shortage of them. For every theater that showed Star Wars, they had all the set of reels. And for every second of film, there are 24 frames. So a 2-hour movie like Star Wars, with the number of theaters Star Wars played in, there's a ton. Well, I don't know how many survived, but this is basically what would be fed through the projector at the movie theater in 1977. And what's interesting about it is there's just kind of, I would almost say, random frames. They're not necessarily associated. I'm trying to hold it in a way that you might be able to see what some of the frames are. And then there is a certificate of authenticity on the back that validates that, you know, this comes from a real, a genuine reel of the film. Anyway, I am a big Star Wars fan, and that is super cool and very thoughtful. And a thank you, of course, to our friend Buster for sending that. That was perfect for me, right up my alley. Also, the Jedi Survivor artwork, which again, I haven't played Jedi Survivor, so I have no point of reference for that, but it's Star Wars artwork, so I appreciate that as well. Thank you to all the members for your memberships and making these videos possible. Everything you see in today's video was purchased. Actually, I think Minisforum might have sent us the computer, but we use the YouTube takes 30% of everything you're giving us. If it's a super chat, if it's any payment that goes through YouTube, YouTube is taking 30%, just so you know. And what we have left, we then use, because YouTube then waits about 30 to 60 days before they pass your money on to us. So we're always using last month's income that represents the month before. And in that way, we don't have a relationship with the sipeed or sipeed. I don't even know how to say the company's name. And I had shown the NanoKVM, I've shown the Jet KVM, and I've shown the Comet KVM. And there's been a pretty big misunderstanding from end users that think this is a remote support tool. Well, I suppose it is, but it's an unattended remote support tool that's intended to control things that don't have monitors, keyboards, or mice. So for many of you watching at home thinking, oh, I could use this to help my parents or whatever, you're making your life way more difficult. There's already software in Windows, from Rust Desk to, you know, then free, UltraViewer, that gets the job done, and it's free. This costs money, but then once you pay for it, there's no additional cost. The problem is, setting this up for outside remote access is far more complicated, and this is intended to replace a monitor, meaning the whole point of this is to be able to access a computer that has no keyboard, mouse, or monitor, so therefore nobody's sitting at it. It would not be an attended access, but an unattended, meaning nobody's there attending to the computer. So what kind of computer is unattended? Like, what are you talking about? Well, again, when we talk to home users, they don't understand the concept. What we're talking about are servers. There's no reason to have an end user sitting at the business server. In fact, most business servers or any business office network environment will be contained in a locked closet, so nobody can get in there and mess with it. Nobody can accidentally turn it off. Nobody can click on something they're not supposed to click on, or the whole company goes down, the phone system goes down, the security system goes down, yada, yada, yada. So how do we get into the locked closet? If we're the IT department and we're the ones expected to keep everything up and running and updated and everything else, and the computer is located at some office and it's located, you got to get through security, you got to get through a locked door, or you could use a remote KVM, log in remotely with your credentials, have control of that server's keyboard and mouse and monitor, and do what you need to do without going through all the hassles. Now, obviously, I can't replace a power supply or turn a screwdriver. I still have to go on site for that. The thing is these used to cost, well, they were about this big and they cost about $12,000. Now, you get these little project boards for 40 bucks and they get the job done. But Carey, you use NAS devices. You don't use servers. That's right. And a NAS device does not have a keyboard or a mouse or a monitor, does it? So, now we're starting to get on the same page. Why would I need this? Here in the studio, I'm up against a wall, right? This is the set. And the place we're in is not very big. I don't have another workbench. This is the only workbench I have in the entire place. Okay, so the other thing is there's a second floor, and I don't want to have to walk upstairs and carry a computer with me, even if, let's just say, even if I had the ability, the space, to put a second workbench, 150-pound workbench, we're going to carry it up a flight of stairs, set it up in an office, then carry up the stairs every computer I want to work on, and carry down the stairs every computer that I'm done working on. Are you out of your mind? Do you have any idea how many computers we have here? And certainly the heavier these computers get and the older I get, this is making it to a point where I'd rather just leave the computer here and just come downstairs, tell the computer to do a Windows update, go back upstairs, and then think, oh yeah, I was doing Windows updates. I should probably go check on those. Come downstairs, look at the screen. No, updates are still going. Looks like they're almost done. Do I want to stand here and wait? Because by the time I get up the stairs, maybe it'll already be done. You see where I'm going? Like, this is a hassle. And then once that's done, I reboot. Now I got to sit here and wait for it to reboot. I can't do anything. I'm just stuck right here. And I'm talking when the cameras are off and I'm just trying to get work done. Why I love this so much is now I can attach a computer to this, go upstairs and do everything I need to do, from updating a BIOS to installing Windows Update, even installing Windows. I can do that all remotely from upstairs. I don't have to come downstairs. I can even, when I'm done, shut the computer off, and then when I come downstairs, I just unplug it, move it aside, and put the next project up. This is an amazing boon in productivity for me, because it enables me to continue doing all the things I'm doing upstairs, which could be even just watching a TV show or a movie, and then all I have to do is just reach over and look and see what the progress is on my laptop for the computer downstairs. This is so incredible. Also, I was doing some updates on a computer at Studio A, which required a BIOS update. Figured I'll wait till I do it here. And unfortunately, that computer's been locking up on me. So this doesn't always work. There's still occasions where I need to be in front of it. But at least then I don't have a choice. I wasn't going to spend $12,000 to do this. And I'm not going to install remote software on brand new computers that I'm handing off to customers. That's profoundly unprofessional for me to put remote access software like RustDesk onto somebody else's computer and then sell them that computer after I've already used it in that way. It's profoundly unprofessional. So I don't do that. Because this doesn't need any software, I'm able to plug it in without in any way adjusting any Microsoft Windows files or registry settings. That's why I don't log into a Microsoft account. I want no caching or history of anything that is not just plain out from the factory, the same way you get it from Dell or HP or any of those others, even though they oftentimes do have remote support built into their machines. It isn't as though that just works whenever. You still have to give them permission and everything. So it's not a service I offer my clients. I do not offer free remote access, at least not regularly, not like something like Dell or HP would do. And therefore, if and when that time should come when that customer does need support that I can do remotely, I use instant house call. So that's my position as a system builder. And that's one way that I use this, where I'm not using it for a server. However, there's lots of other ways you could use it. And I'm not telling you there's any rules. I'm telling you, if you're thinking I can support my friends with this, you could support your friends much easier with software. You're not doing that. I'm not doing that because I don't put remote software on computers that I don't own, that are yet to be sold to future customers. I just find that would be like you're buying a new car for me and I have all my stuff in the trunk and it's supposed to be a new car and I put 1,000 miles on it and there's empty bottles of water sitting on the floorboards. Would you buy a car from a dealer like that? So if you want to play with the big boys and you want to compete with the professionals, you've got to offer the same professional courtesy. And customers should expect no different. So those are all the reasons why I use it. And you might want to use it just for fun. You might have some unique reason that you could use this. It's really up to your imagination. But if you're using this instead of remote software, I think you're a fool, because remote software is free. This costs money. And remote software will do everything this does. The only difference is that when you plug this in, you are getting rid of the monitor. That means if a computer has 2 video outputs, you could run one video output to this, the other video output to the monitor, and then turn on screen duplication. But if those 2 monitors are 2 different sizes, let's say one's a 32-inch monitor, and this pops up as, I don't know, whatever size resolution looks good on it, you end up either getting the lowest of the 2 or creating a confusing scenario for the end user if that configuration gets altered through an update or anything and they can't see their screen anymore. So ideally, you would use this on computers that don't have screens. So when I set up a computer down here so I could go work on it upstairs, I don't need to hook up my monitor. I don't need to hook up the keyboard and mouse. I just hook up this with an Ethernet connection, no software. I go upstairs. I can do the BIOS. I can do a Windows install. I can do all the updates. I can just keep checking on it without having up and down the stairs, up and down the stairs. I'm not moving equipment around. It's still on the desk. When I'm done, I can shut it off, come downstairs, unplug it, put it away, put the next one on the desk. This is an incredible solution for me. And I realize I might be the only one in the world who uses it this way. Now, they sell 2 different versions of this. They sell a version that's already assembled for about $66, I think it was 70 bucks. Or you can buy the project board for about $40, but then you have to buy all the cables and memory card and do all the work to make it work, and you still don't get a screen, you still don't get a case. And when you buy all the accessories, you're probably in at about $90. So you say, well, why in the world would anybody want to do all the work and pay more for the privilege? That's called a hobby. There's lots of people that will buy models they have to glue together. Why not just buy the model pre-assembled? I could buy a model of a car that I have to get the glue and I have to put it all together and then I have to paint it and put the decals on it. Or I could just buy a die-cast car already built of the same make and model, and I'll just take it out of the package and put it on the shelf. It's done. Well, that's why people sometimes like the projects, and when they do, almost always they're going to spend more. The cost of the model and the glue and the paint and the decals will almost certainly cost more than buying it already put together. The cost of buying a car, let's take it to an extreme. Let's say a car is $40,000. If you were to build that car in parts, if you bought the steering wheel and the seats and the frame and the shocks and the engine, transmission, if you bought all of that, the wiring harnesses, you'd be in at about $275,000. Like, no joke. No joke. But maybe that's a fun project for you, and maybe you have that kind of money and you have that kind of time and you'd like to build it yourself. It's possible, in most cases, to go ahead and build your own car, but you could also probably spend a whole lot less and have a warranty and just walk away with a, drive away, I suppose, with a car in the same day. You're not likely going to build it in the same day. So you've got to understand who this is for, or you're just not going to get it. It's going to go whoosh right over your head. You're going to be, I don't get it. Okay? So hopefully with that explanation, you'll understand why project boards like this exist and the unique creative ingenuity that people have that could use this in a way that no one ever thought to use it before, because now they could build their own case. They could redesign or repurpose this to fit a scenario that none of us ever thought of. So when we look at the Amazon page, let's take a look at some of this together. Let's go over to Amazon first, and let me show you what the project board looks like. Where's my screen capture? Right here. Okay, so this is Amazon. This is where I ordered, and the company that makes it's called sipeed or sipeed. You get the little board here, and you get the little heatsink that's got double-sided sticky tape. $40, they've got a 5% coupon. But if you go this route, you will have to buy a small memory card. They're cheap. 10 bucks will get you 2 of them that are 32 gigs each. And they come with these adapters if you need that for creating the image on it, which you have to use another computer for. Then we also have to buy a USB-C to Type A cable. And it can't just be a charging cable. It's got to be a data sync cable because it provides power and it provides the keyboard and mouse emulation to the machine you're plugging it into. So again, it's only about $6, but keep adding this up. You're going to need an HDMI cable unless you already have an extra one lying around. There's a 20% off coupon on here, which is going to take about $1.40 off of that price. You're still, another $6 here or there. You may also need a memory card reader, because if your computer doesn't have a memory card reader, you'll have no way to program the card. Not a big expense. This one has a $2 coupon. It's $12 minus 2 at $10, and it'll read the full size and the micro SD card, so you don't even need to use the adapter. Okay, then you're also going to have to find the release of the software and then use a program like Etcher to create the image on the memory card that you will install in the NanoKVM. That's part of the fun, all right? I'm showing you how to put the model together. If you don't have any interest in building models, then instead of buying this unit for $40, buy this unit here for $70. And it's already installed in a case. It comes with a screen. It comes with an ATX power adapter if you want to use this on a tower computer to control the power and reset remotely, hooking it up to physical buttons. It comes with the USB cables. It comes with a 32 gig memory card already installed and configured. You just take this out of the package, plug it in, and start using it. And it'll save you about $20 and about a day of your time. And if you don't like it in black, they sell it in white. Okay? So I did not want to go through this whole process. When I purchased these, I was anxious to use them, and they were financially far more logical, far better value. So I said to myself, I would never just do this because this is dumb. You're spending more to do more work. But that's what hobbyists do. Hobbyists spend the money for something they'll never profit from because they find entertainment in it. So once I got interested in these, I bought a white one, I bought a black one, and I thought, well, let's just get the whole kit. So I thought, let's go through this process. But then I found nobody's got a video or a how-to walkthrough that once you get this, and let's say you don't know you're not going to get the cables, you don't know you're not going to get a screen. It doesn't occur to you that, oh, that screen, without it, you kind of have to guess what's going on. You don't know, for example, you're going to need a memory card, what size or where to get the image or how to put the image onto the memory card. There's little bits of information here or there online, but nobody has compiled it into one solid walkthrough until today. So as I tried to do this live, I ran into some confusion. And so as a result, I started, after that video was over, I worked on this offline. And once I could focus and not worry about the camera and worry about the chat room, it really wasn't that difficult. I made notes. They're all in the video notes below today's video. So if you decide you want to build one of these and you're looking for that walkthrough, you can follow those notes, and or you can follow along with this video. And that's the purpose of today's video. Once I got this working, if I show you here, I've got the memory card in there. So let's take this memory card out. I know this memory card works, and I've not rehearsed this, okay? So I'm gonna just set this over here. We're not gonna touch that. Because we bought 2 of them, this is still brand new in the package, it's never been used. If your computer does not have a memory card reader, or in this case, if you do not have an extra data sync cable, the one I just showed you, I ordered off Amazon and it arrived the other day. So that's what this is. This is the USB cable that we will need. This is our memory card reader. If you do not have one, I guess I have to cut the tape. Yep, there it is. There's our memory card reader for 10 bucks. Just in case your computer does not have a memory card reader, because without a memory card reader, you will not be able to program the memory card. I guess we get some documentation with that. And then we've got an HDMI cable. I like to buy these little thin HDMI cables. These are super thin. And I like to get them about somewhere between 2 and 3 feet. Everything, I don't want it any longer than 3 feet because we're just going to go out of the KVM into the machine. I didn't have to worry about buying all this stuff when I bought the prepackaged unit because it's already plug and play to go. And even when I'm done, I still have no case for this, so it still remains open like that. So the way I'm showing you right now is how it arrives. It arrives just as this little circuit board and this little heat sink, and we attach the heat sink. And it doesn't matter if it goes this way or that way, it doesn't matter. And then it's up to you to get a memory card and use a computer to download the proper image, write it onto the memory card, install the memory card into the unit, and then you can configure this however you want it. And that's what we're going to do today. All right. So last time we did this, I used this mini swarm computer because it already has a memory card reader built into it. So it doesn't matter if the memory card reader is built in or external. You have to have a memory card reader to make the image. And this one has it right here on the side. There's a little memory card reader right over there. And that way, I don't need to use this. But if I wanted to do this on the streaming computer, it does not have a memory card reader. I could just plug this in. And what's great is these don't expire. So it's a great tool if you're a hobbyist or you're someone who does a lot of work on computers. You never quite know when tools like this can come in handy. Maybe somebody comes in with a cell phone that's not working. You could pop their memory card out if it has one and recover their data for them using a tool like this. So if you do that kind of work for 10 bucks, it's a great tool to have. And this is just one example of where you would need it if you were to do these kind of projects. So let's fire this back up. Now previously, I realized this had Windows 22H2 on it. You're going to love this story. When I tried to upgrade to 24H2 that same, I think it was the same day while we were doing this, it failed. And I thought, okay, well, something's wrong with the configuration. So what I ended up doing is I got this fixed, and to test it, I plugged it in here, and I did a complete reinstall of Windows 11, clean, wiped out all the partitions on here, put 24H2 on it, did all the updates, did all the drivers, which, by the way, Minisforum makes them very easily locatable. And, you know, in that way I was testing this. But I was doing it all from upstairs. And now this looks, to your eyes, it's going to look the same. Everything's been put back to the default way I like to do a fresh install without any customization of this at all. This is a factory install with drivers and updates. It's all activated, everything's working fine, and I felt very confident that all of my notes were correct on this. So now I can go back through those notes, through those the order of those steps, to show you how to do it if you're interested. So let me plug it in, we'll get things fired up. Now the reason I'm hooking this up, once again, we're gonna go video output onto the screen because this doesn't work yet. I need to use this to make this work. So I need a screen and a keyboard on here, and I'm gonna share the screen with you so you can watch everything that I do. So to do this, I need a network connection in here, and I need an HDMI cable. Oh, I think I'm standing on them. Here we go. There's my HDMI that goes to the capture card. We'll plug that in back here. And then internet. Where is my internet? Oh, here it is. And then I need a keyboard and a mouse. Now, if you were doing this at home, you'd be using whatever your project computer is to prep this. So this is my project computer for now. This is my keyboard and mouse. We'll plug that in right like so, and we'll turn that on. Okay? Okay. We don't need that for a while. We are going to need this blank memory card. This little package, in case you're wondering, you could go back to the original video. This is pretty much what you get for your 40 bucks. This little tiny box. That's all you get. So again, you're on your own for your cables, you're on your own for your memory card, and you're on your own to figure out where's the image I download, which one is it. It's all on Linux, so if you don't understand Linux file systems, it's not like Windows. Things are not as point and click, let's just say. But I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you precisely. All right, let me take a quick look in the chat here. And I see Thomas MacT says hello. There's Lou Greeny, Essential Working Too Hard, and Mark Gaines. Ben Laird and Dwayne Blackwelder join us, along with Dustin Fuller and Andy W6AD. I also see... Oh, Dwayne Blackwelder renewed membership, now a member for 31 months. He says, hello, Carey and Marlena. I'm still around, but have not been in a live stream in a while. Thanks for all you do. Right on. Thank you, Dwayne. Thanks for renewing membership, and thanks for joining us today. It's good to see you. As well as Jose Lopez, David Graham, and Jose Lopez contributed $1 super chat. Right on. Thank you, Jose. Richard DeFries says hello. Eddie Casanova joins us. Peter Laycock with a 10-pound super chat says hello, Carey and Mara and everyone in the chat. All the best from Bonnie, Scotland, where the temperature in Edinburgh, 68 degrees Fahrenheit or 20 degrees Celsius. Wow, I wish I was there. Mark Cardone became a supporter. Thank you, Mike. Thank you for supporting us. I suppose it would be Mike Cardon. I don't see an E on the end. And yeah, and again, I thank you and a shout out to our good friend Buster, as always. Always good to see him in our chat room here. All right, let me jump over to the desktop. This should long have been booted quite a while ago. It's not like this only takes like a few seconds to boot. So let's go to number 3. Here we go. Does my mouse work? Yes. Okay. First things first, let me just make sure we're dealing with a clean downloads folder. I'm pretty sure everything's been wiped out on this, but I don't want to confuse myself any more than I am normally confused. So let's just open the downloads folder, and oh, it looks like we're in 4K, which makes everything super tiny. So let me change these display settings to 1080. Better. And now let's go to our downloads folder, and it should be empty. Oh, I've got the drivers installed here, so we don't need those. And I just grabbed this driver package from Minis Forum, and then the driver and support assistant up here. You guys are familiar that I do that on Intel systems. So let's make sure our downloads directory is clean for this. Other than that, this is a brand new clean install. Now, it doesn't really matter what version of Windows you're using to do this, but for the sake of clarity and transparency, you can see here that we are running Windows 11 24H2, as it explains down here. And if we look in our device manager, everything in here is loaded and happy. Perfect. So we're basically running a clean install. I mention that because it's hard to know what end users do to their computers. So if you don't experience, like if you're following exactly what I'm doing, click for click, and you're getting a different result, there's something different about your Windows install. Or you're just not following my directions. Now, if we go to this video, if I bring up YouTube over here, I want to show you. This is where you can find the documentation. They're called video notes or video description. And when I click on the video and I scroll down here, it says more right down here. And this is the complete walkthrough. And then underneath is the parts list for everything. So let's follow my instructions and see if I can understand my own writing. The proper process is to download the latest image file. So this requires Google searching. So I've already done the searching for you. Here's the link. We click on that link, and the latest version is 1.4.0 as of the 21st of June 2025. And you know what? It doesn't have to be the latest version. I can go to an older version and then update it afterwards, but I need to start with something. So if you're watching this video in the future and there's a bigger number at this link, or actually this might even just take you to 140 based on the link, you're okay to still use this version going forward. Even if a newer version is available, don't worry about that. You say, okay, what do I download? There's under assets, I see a bunch of stuff, source code, tar.gz. What does this even mean? We're looking for an image file. And in the world of Linux, an image file has the letters img in the file name, not in the extension, in the file name. So here, 2025, looks like February 17th, NanoKVM, blah, 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 img.xr. What is .xr? What is that? That's like .zip. It's Linux's version of a zip file. So we're going to click once on that. And that's going to open up and download, well, it opens up here in the top right corner, and it's going to download that image file. Okay, so let's go back to our instructions. Now what do I do? It says download the latest image file. Okay. Then I use the Rufus alternative called Etcher. You can use Rufus for this if you want to, but in order to make this a little more clarified for an end user, because this is intended to hold your hand, and Rufus is not intended to hold your hand. Etcher does a better job at holding your hand. So I'm going to show you using Etcher by clicking that link, and then we're going to download Etcher. It's completely free. This is ideal if you want to create a Linux distribution installer or any Linux-based bootable media. If you're making Windows-based bootable media, personally, I would use Rufus. So we want Etcher for Windows 64-bit right here. That's what we want. We'll use the installer. You can use the portable version too, but I'll tell you what, let's try it with the portable version because I haven't done that before. It shouldn't really matter which one you use as long as it's for the, you have a 64-bit version of Windows, you should be using 64-bit software. All right, go back over to this tab. What do we do next? There's no need to decompress the IMG file. In other words, that file extension, don't even worry about that. I go off on a tangent about Linux community misusing standard technology terms. They have done this forever. They appropriate their own words that instead of coming up with their own words or using the words that exist, they redefine the words and decide that what we're going to do is we're going to flash. Okay, let me just get this off my chest because it really bothers me. In this industry, and I've been in this industry a long time. Go back to camera one for a second here. I've been in this industry a long time. And when we're recording data to something, when we're writing data, we have a word for that. It's called writing data. These memory cards can be referred to as flash memory. And the Linux community doesn't seem to care. And they'll say they're flashing the memory. They're not. That is like so ridiculously wrong. And it is almost universally accepted that if you have flash memory, then you're flashing software. No. Flashing is a term that's already been around for a very long time that refers to recording software onto an eeprom, and a programmable chip, firmware. You would flash firmware. You would flash a BIOS. It's going onto a chip. Well, you could say, well, this is a chip too. Okay. This is not firmware. Software and firmware have two different names for a reason. You flash firmware, you write software. On top of that, they like to use the word burn. Burn the image onto the flash memory. Oh my gosh. Burning is a term used in optical drives where the laser is literally burning pits into the media. Where do you think the word burn came from? So if you're not recording optical media, something that's not using a laser, you're not burning. So what are you doing? You're writing. It's the simplest thing. So I got a little confused when I see this misused terminology over and over from what appear to be reputable sites that have an understanding of technology, and they don't. They claim to be experts, but they don't even know the right words to use, and they just go off, and it's like, do you hear yourself? You're using the wrong terms. No, I'm not, because I'll show you somebody else in the Linux community that says the same thing. All right, so you all live in your own little world where you all just redefine what's already been established. So am I burning this? Am I flashing this? Am I writing this? We can debate all day about the proper usage of the word flash and burn, but we can all agree we are writing. So why don't we just stick to the terms that already exist instead of trying to appropriate them? I don't understand that. This threw me off. Because it's flash memory, they say we're going to flash this. That is the dumbest thing. Like if it came from a 10-year-old who was just barely grasping onto the tech and they're still learning, I get it. But this is upsetting to me because it comes across pompous, right? They come across like, I'm the expert and I'm going to teach you how to do it, and the expert doesn't even know the right terminology to use. Wow. So in any event, this is the Linux community at large. This is not just a little tiny portion of them. This is the normal misuse of terms that they teach to other people learning Linux, and then they go on to teach it to other people. And so I'm the odd one out. From their perspective, I don't know what I'm talking about. This is how crazy the world has become. So now that I've gotten that off my chest, at this point, we've downloaded the image, we've downloaded Etcher, right? We haven't done anything with them. We're going to take our brand new memory card out of here. It's never been used. And if it has been used, we're going to erase everything on it, regardless. It doesn't matter if it's used or not. And I'm going to put it in my computer, or I'll put it in my USB memory card reader. This card will only go in one way. It clicks in and clicks out. If you try and put it in the other way, it won't go. Don't force it. Turn it around. Should go in nice and easy. So let's do that right now. See there, this one goes upside down here. Push it in, just like clicking a pen, it locks in. You'll push it in again like a pen and it'll retract out like a ballpoint pen. Now, memory card is in there. It doesn't matter if there's anything on the card or not. We are going to completely erase it. In this case, this is brand new. I've never used it before. So it has no format, no partition, nothing. So let's jump back over here and I'll show you what to do next. Oh, Iceman sends a contribution of $9.99. Thank you, Iceman. Oh, did I forget to turn my power savings? Hold on a second. Why did it do that? Let me go down here to edit my power settings. I don't know. Anyway, don't mind me. Download the image, download Etcher. Me going off about ISO images versus IMG images. You'll need a Windows computer with a memory card reader, blah, blah, blah. How to use the Etcher software. So the wiki part of sipeed, the people who make this device, have a great walkthrough. But we're just going to do it on video rather than, using pictures. So let's just do it live right now. So I'm going to click here and I'll click on, let's just minimize this. Roll that away. Okay, let's go to our downloads folder. And let's start with this Bellena Etcher portable. Double click on it. And in just a second, we should see the application open. Here we go. You see this term, flash from file? We're not flashing. Anyway, we're going to write from file, but even though these developers who are smart enough to write their own software don't know how to use the words correctly, bear with us and just go with it. Just nod your head. Don't try and correct them. When I go back to my downloads directory, there is the compressed XZ file. We do not need to decompress it. Just select it and, you click open or double click it. And it's going to read that file, figure out what the heck it is. It says, okay, where do you want this to be written to? I want it written to the memory card. So if I select that, it should be on the list here, generic SD memory card, that's it. Put a check next to that box and select one right there. And then this should say write. Okay, flash. I guess let me go get my trench coat. Now what it's going to do, if you, I got to give it permission, yes. What this is going to do is it's going to show you that it's decompressing the file and then that it's writing the data. It's not flashing the data. And this only takes about 2 minutes. But as you can see, it does really hold your hand in a much better way than Rufus does, which, I'm not there to say one's better than the other, but if you're a beginner, Etcher is much more gentle for a beginner. Or if you're using, trying to create a Linux bootable media, the Linux community just doesn't like to follow standards. And because they don't, when things don't work in Rufus, the answer from the Rufus developers is that Linux isn't following the rules. Whoever made the image didn't follow the standards. Now, given that I've already shown you real life examples of how the Linux community doesn't follow standards, I believe the creator of Rufus is correct. So because of there's like a disobey the rules kind of an attitude. And as a result, when they're doing things different than the standard, sometimes Rufus will not function correctly, but Etcher always will. Because Etcher understands this is what the Linux community sometimes does to create images and knows how to handle it. Whereas Rufus says, do it the right way or don't, but we're not going to accommodate you doing it the wrong way. That seems to be the way that I'm interpreting what's going on here. And as a result, you know, I'm not a fan of the Linux community. I'm not a fan of that whatsoever. There's no good justifiable reason for just not following standards, other than to confuse people and keep people out. That's the way I see it. This is my opinion. Now that we've written the image, not flashed it, it's going to validate the image was written correctly. So in just a moment here, unless you've got a bad memory card or you're writing to something with bad blocks, which is pretty unusual with modern day electronics, but maybe you've got something many years old you're recycling or repurposing. Getting that validation is just a good peace of mind that your image recording, your image write was successful. Rufus does not do this by default. It is an option, I believe. Once again, this really does this is much gentler of a program for doing this kind of work. Rufus is a much gentler program when making Windows bootable images or Windows installers, etc. So either one can do either job. One does a type of job better than the other, in my opinion. So there's a place in the market for both of them to coexist. And if you follow along with me, you'll see this is completely free. We're not modifying this computer in any way. The software we're using is portable. We're not installing anything. We're not decompressing anything. It's pretty straightforward. The hard part for me was figuring out where the heck the image was, because there's a lot of sipeed images, and some of them are for development, some of them are just code. They're not even images, they're just downloads. And how can I tell the downloads apart from the images? And that's when I realized if it's an image, it says IMG in the title. That's it, we're done with this. So we can click just to close the box. And let me take you back over to camera 1 here for a moment. And here's the next step. We're simply going to eject the memory card right here. And if I go over to camera 2, should give us a little bit of a close-up here. That goes into this device. You will have put your heatsink on. The gold tabs on the memory card, they're going to face down towards the circuit board. As I told you, this only goes in one way, but on this you could actually flip it backwards, but there'd be no connection here. So it's not going to work. You've got to put it in this way, and you'll know that's the top because it's got a little lip right here on the edge of the memory card. Under here, there's no lip. If you put it in upside down, it's very difficult to get out. Just push it in until it stops. We're done. We can use this now. So to test it, we'll plug it in over here. An easy way for us to test this would be simply to grab our USB cable that we bought. Grab our HDMI cable that we bought. And when I'm buying these, I'm looking for really thin, flexible cables, not the braided ones. Those are too thick and inflexible. So I'm paying very close attention because there's many to choose from on Amazon. I'm not just looking at price. So now we're going to plug HDMI in here. So this cord here provides us with the voltage to turn this on and power it, as well as emulate the keyboard and mouse back to the machine we're plugging it into. And this provides our monitor right here. That's why you would not have a monitor hooked up to this. This becomes your monitor. And the way we're going to access it is through an Ethernet cable. So if I take the Ethernet cable out of this machine, then when I connect to it remotely, I won't have any internet access here. So I do have to have some kind of a switch or splitter in order to feed another network cable into this. Now the new unit coming out offers Wi-Fi, and for me, I need internet to both boxes. This is why it's also not an ideal solution for remote access. Most people barely have one wire going to a computer, or it's wireless. How are you going to get a wire to this? Okay, now one way we can find this, and there's lots of different ways to find this device on the network. When we're dealing with the unit that comes with a screen, it'll tell us the IP address once it's powered on. But without the screen, how do we find it? Well, I'm going to show you how I do it, but there's other ways. But I'm going to assume you don't know any other ways, so I'm going to teach you one. Well, we're still hooked up to this machine. I'm going to open up a command prompt here. So let's go full screen over here. And I'm going to type in CMD or command, right? CMD and press enter. Then I'm going to type ARP -A, and that's going to show me all of the IP addresses on my network. I'm not interested in these 224s. What I'm interested in right here is, well, for some reason I'm not seeing them all. I see a 1 and a 61. All right, keep that in mind. We can leave this window open, by the way. Let me go back to camera 1. Without turning the machine off, I mean, I can if I want to, but in order for me to demonstrate and teach this, I'm going to unplug my monitor. This is now my new monitor. I don't need my keyboard and mouse, so I can get rid of it, or I can keep it. You can have 2 keyboards and 2 mice. Just the world starts to get a little confusing. I'm going to plug in my USB port or USB cable to any USB port. Doesn't matter. And I'll see I got a red light and a blue light on here. And this should start booting. But again, without the screen, all I can tell is from it's going to show me. See the blue light blinking? That it's doing something. And it takes it about, I don't know, 60 seconds, 90 seconds, and it's ready. So how are we going to find it? If we go back to this machine, I've already found a flaw in my logic. I need this cable hooked up, but now I can't see the machine. So let me put the HDMI cable back into it here, which I just threw down on the ground. Didn't I? Yeah, I did. I just want to briefly show you. Let me plug the keyboard and mouse back in. See, this is why I need to do these videos, because there's a certain order. I still want to use that ARP command and see which new IP address we now have that we did not have before. And that tells us how we access this. It's kind of a poor man's way, a very basic way of identifying something new on your network that wasn't there before. So putting it back the way it was, but just leaving the USB cable in with the Ethernet cable so that it can boot and get an IP address. So let's go back to camera 3. And let's go source projector. Here we go. And we'll type ARP -A again. And do we have anything new in here? It's going to be one of these 192.168, and it's not giving me the complete list. So I'm wondering if I have to be in a command prompt. So an administrator command prompt. Maybe that's the difference. Let me type in CMD again, only this time we'll open it as an administrator. Now let's try the same command. No, I'm not seeing anything new on the 192.168. That's interesting. Either this has not booted. I'm missing a step here. Let me check and make sure my networking is working, because I should have more devices than that appearing. I go over here to my network. How many items do I see? 1, 2, 3, 4. But when I go here, CMD, run it as an administrator, ARP -A, ARP space -A. Oh, For some reason now I can see everything. Okay, so you see we have all these numbers, right? And so all of these things that are 192.168.68, this is the NAS, the streaming PC, the little mini forum PC, and one of these in here is the NanoKVM, and it's probably the highest number, the 192.168.68.69. So if I open a browser and I come up here and type in 192.168.68.69, does the NanoKVM software come up? No, this is a Phantom printer. It was a good guess, Carey. If I knew the name of the device, I could just do that. So now the problem is I'm not sure which one is new in this list. So I can unplug the Ethernet cable from the NanoKVM, and that will lose its IP address. So we can do the opposite and rerun this command and see if any of these numbers are now missing. So I'm going to type in ARP-A one more time and compare them. 50, 53, 61, 50, 53, 61, 65, 66, 65, 66, 69, 69. This is probably the hardest part of this. And there's other ways to do this, probably easier ways. This is what I'm showing you is very basic. And what I'm wondering is if this is not refreshing properly. Let me do ARP-A one more time. The other thing is maybe our NanoKVM isn't booting. So that's the other thing. Without the screen to tell us the status of it, how do I know? So I'm going to plug the NanoKVM back in again to the network. Give that a second. And then we'll type in ARP-A and see if we get anything new in the list here. And it could take a moment. And the other thing I'm wondering, you know, when I went to the network here, when I refreshed it, right click, refresh. Where's my refresh? Right click, view, no, show more options. There it is, refresh it. Here we go. Now let me go back over here, ARP-A. There's a DOS command for this too. I'm not seeing anything here. So what that suggests to me is that we're not booting. Now we could manually try and go to each one of these IP addresses. We don't have that many items on the network here. I know it's not 1, but it could be 50, 53, 61, 62, 65. The problem is those numbers were always there before. So I'm suspicious now if this device is booted properly. We don't need the HDMI cable plugged in to access the NanoKVM. So if I wanted to just randomly try what other addresses do, we could certainly go through it the difficult way. The good news is, for me anyway, once I set a name on this device, an MDNS name, then I can easily find it by just pinging the name. But because I don't know the default name coming off the image, I have no idea what to look for here. So let me just take a moment and gather my thoughts, because when I do this live versus when I do it off camera, I have time to research this a little bit more without the pressure, you know, of being live. And let me see. There might have been a step I'm missing that I didn't write down, and that's why it's good to go through this together. We just have to do this once to find the darn thing, and that's assuming our image works. If our image does not work, then we're just going to be chasing our tail. And that's why this is a project box, whereas the other one has a screen and it tells us what's going on the screen. We're working blind with this, so you've got to know network protocols, command line protocols, some of which I have long since forgotten, but if I Google this, I'm sure I can find what the command is that I'm looking for to find that. Someone may even have a piece of software out there that can look for it, just like many NAS manufacturers offer. Let me jump over to the chat room here just to see if any of you have a suggestion for me. Andy says, I'm happy that Rufus is Irish. Yeah, indeed it is. Andy says hello. Sean Skinner says hello. All right, so I'm baffled why I'm not finding this. So give me just a second here. And let me check my ARP on the streamer. So I'm getting the same numbers here. Let's try something. It seems to be caching an IP address from something from the TerraMaster from a few days ago. I don't know why it's doing that. So I know it's not 68, it's not 69. We could try 66 and 65. Getting a lot of browser caching here. Darn it. I'm guessing the image is not booting for some reason. That's the only conclusion I can come to, because if this image had booted correctly, we should have a new IP address in that list. And that's an indicator that we haven't booted. On the other hand, again, without a screen, I'm not exactly sure. We have downloaded the right image. We have recorded that. I've done everything, I believe, the way I'm supposed to. I wonder if it's possible this USB cable is not the right cable. I'm going to grab another USB cable just to check, because we need more than just power. If we only have power, well, actually, even if we only had power, we should still pull an IP address up. So I think there's a flaw in that logic. But just to be safe, we're going to use the regular NanoKVM here, and I'll use its cables, because I just took those cables out of the bag, and I just want to eliminate any possibility that I've done something incorrectly there. Memory card is in. USB cable is in. Don't need that. What's going on here? Oh, that's that's the HDMI cable. Okay, so just plug that in here. Just curious if that might be my problem. I see the red light on. I see the blue light flashing. And I think the blue light flashing is telling us that it's reading off the memory card. The problem is, if it's erroring out, I can't see it. So again, when we deal with a project like this, this is part of the fun. But once we get that, once we sign into this, we can configure it so that we never have to find it again. We can label it and we label it whatever we want to as long as we remember the name of the label. Super easy to find it. But I don't know the default label name, and that's where my hang-up is. Let me take a quick look at my ARP list again. I'm not seeing anything new on the list. This is why people do rehearsals, you know. They go through the steps they plan on going on camera. But the reality is, especially when you're new at something, it's going to take some practice and, you know, like playing a piano. If you want to show people how you're learning and make that video and they can see you improve, I think that video has more value than having you do all that work for hours that nobody appreciates and then turn around and say, you know, oh yeah, it was nothing, when in fact you poured a lot of time and effort into it. So my goal here is to not hide away the work involved. Just to run another test here real quick, what I will do is, one more time, I'm going to look at the ARP. Nothing's happening. So here's what I'm going to do. Come back over here to camera 1. We're going to pull the USB cable because that's what's providing power. In fact, I'm going to pull all these cables here. And to avoid confusing myself further, I'm going to put this back the way it was, which is this end. We'll use the bottom USB cable here on the device, HDMI. And this is the completed module. If you buy this one, you don't have to do all the things I'm doing here. This is ready to take it out of the package, start using it. And because it's got the screen, you don't have to guess. It'll tell you what's going on the screen. Let's try this one more time. Only, let me verify by putting the original memory card I had in there. I had this one working. Let me make sure I don't have a bad cable or that I'm not missing a step. So we'll plug in USB again and then plug in our USB cable down here. So now all I've got is the USB cable giving it power and the Ethernet that should be giving it an IP address. If this boots, again, we have the red light and the blue light flashing. And in theory, if I go back to my ARP, let's jump back over to this computer real quick. I've been using the wrong keyboard, so apparently let's go back to our command line. There's our list, right? And let's do it again, ARP-A, and see if we have anything new. 66, 65, 62, 61, 53, 50. Why is it not in here? Let's refresh the network list. Right click, show more options, refresh. Let me just close it out. Let's try one more time. It just doesn't seem to be locating it for some reason. And I'm not sure what's going on with that. That's our printer. There it is right there. It's 192.168.68.70, and I don't know why that's not in our ARP list. Or was it and I wasn't seeing it? ARP, is 70 in there? 70 is in there. I mean, yeah, you could guess like I did and just go to the next number up or the number after that and then see if you get the login. So this is our previous image. I already knew this one worked. I've already tested it. But I'm going to have to find an improved way. The ARP way doesn't seem to be very reliable for me. So what I'm going to do is, once again, we're going to unplug it from USB here. And then I'm going to take that memory card out. Like I said, this is the one I was using for testing. I know that works. Let's put back in the memory card we had from before. And we'll install that right like so. And maybe there's a viewer watching this that can remind me of the command to find new items on the network. Or specifically, if there's a way to find the nano. Maybe there's a custom piece of software out there that'll search for it. So once again, we turn that on. It's going to take a minute to boot up. This is a little tiny computer. It's not the fastest computer, nor does it need to be. And if we give that a minute, it may not get the same IP address. It still may not get 70. It may get 71, 72. Oystein says, could I check the logs on the DHCP server? If I want to log into the router, I could, except I am concerned about what I show on a public video. So I am reluctant to show the configuration and login of my router for security reasons. That's why I'm not doing it that way. But yes, you could. I also feel like that's far more advanced. Most people don't even know what their router is. They have no idea how to log into it. And I'm trying to make a video that applies universally for all people, not depending on which router you have or how you configured it. But yes, that is a way, if you have the knowledge and know-how, and you're not worried about, putting out a video to the public about exposing information, you could do it that way. But that's why I'm not. So I appreciate the suggestion. Let's go back to this machine now. Now we've left this machine at the former screen, right? It doesn't recognize we've unplugged anything. So let me, like for example, if you're on a website and you disconnect your internet connection, the website still stays up. It's just when you click on something, it won't go anywhere. So what you're looking at is the previous. What happens if I hit refresh? Will it still bring it up? It's still bringing it up. So I'm guessing it got reassigned the IP address back to where it was. Let's do admin, and I don't know, admin maybe is the default. Yes. All right, so this is your first time boot up. And this is important because they want you to change the password right away, even though we're on a local network. I don't know what that error is. Let's refresh again. Let's go back and log back in. Leave it to a live video for everything to go completely sideways, It says it's loading something. Change your password, okay, and then we get an error. I did not see that coming. We go back one more time. Let's go, will it let me click on this gear? You see there's a new app. We're on version, we downloaded 1.40, which for some reason is the image version. But then we have an application version, which is 2.2. But it says here, check for updates. And we go from 2.20 to 2.29, or 2.2.9. Let's go ahead and download that update. That's critical because if you're having any connection issues, it's likely resolved with these updates. These updates are pretty small. They don't take very long to apply. And that will give us the latest application version. And remember, I still don't have a monitor hooked up to the KVM. We're still just trying to configure the KVM. Let's log into it again now that we have the update in there. Why is that not working? There it goes. I just have to type it right. Will that work now? Yes, that's the way it's supposed to come up. So let's call it NanoKVM, and let's set our password. And that is absolutely required. Now we're going to log in with the credentials we just set. We're going to log in with the name, and we're going to log in with the password. Okay, now when this is right now, it's looking for a monitor. There's nothing for it to display because we don't have the HDMI cable plugged in. I don't want to go looking for this every darn time. So if I come over here to the gear, and then I look at device. Well, actually, no, I think we're right there. It says host name. See, I don't know that's what the host name is. So if I click this little blue clipboard, I can change my host name to be NanoKVM. If I spell it right. NanoKVM. And then hit the checkbox. Reboot to apply. How do you reboot? You're going to go over to device and reboot. Sure, yes. So that's going to temporarily disconnect us, and then it's going to restart the unit. Now I'm going to show you what we've just done with what the end result of all that means. I'm assuming you're still following me on this. So let's go back over to camera 1. At this point, I'm done with this. It's all configured. That configuration will never change. Once it's done, it's done. At this point, I can take my HDMI cable, plug it in here, right? Take the other end. Let's plug it in to the computer I've been connecting to directly through the capture card. Let's plug it into the NanoKVM. And you'll see I'm doing all this while it's on, and this is on. I don't want to use this keyboard and mouse. I don't want to confuse myself, so let's disconnect it. We'll move it over here so I don't confuse myself any more than I'm already confused. Now let's open a tab on the streaming computer. So bear with me here. We'll go over to our window capture, which is right there. And up here, I'm going to type in that host name. I called it NanoKVM dot, here's the part it's not obvious, dot local. Now I don't have to worry, is it 192.168? It doesn't matter anymore. Now I can look for it by name, and it immediately appears in my browser on the streamer. I'm going to log in with the name and password I've already just showed you we set up, right? And what will appear on the screen, if everything works, is the desktop. So don't let this confuse you. This is all the tabs we left open on the mini computer that we're done with. So yeah, that probably could have been really confusing. But now we're on the desktop of the mini PC while we're also in our browser. We just select different browser tabs. So if I go full screen on this, or display capture, let's see if I can do that. Let me turn off window capture. Let me turn off HDMI 3. And let me go to just the full display capture. Okay, so that's everything the way I see it. So this is the mini PC. See how I move my big mouse, and the little mouse behind it is the one on the mini PC. And if I want to take a look at our downloads on the mini PC, there's Bellena Etcher, and there's the image file. I don't need those anymore. You see, I'm still using my streamer keyboard and mouse, but I'm now controlling the mini PC without a separate keyboard and mouse. And if I want to come up here, I can show you I'm in the browser. Therefore, no software is needed to do this. Because both the NanoKVM and the mini PC have their own network connection, I can do my Windows updates. Furthermore, I can go in the BIOS. I can say advanced options, recovery, advanced startup, restart. And I'm going to see this as a monitor would if I were connected directly to a monitor. In other words, I'm going to see the post screen. I'm going to see everything I would see when I'm outside of Windows. When you're using, see, there you go. When you're using remote software within Windows, then the remote software doesn't start until Windows starts. So what if we need to do something like get in a BIOS and turn on, I don't know, secure boot? I can do it this way. This is one of a couple ways. I can go to troubleshoot, and I can go to advanced, and I can say go to my UEFI firmware settings. But I could also just hit the right key at the right time, no differently than if I were standing in front of the unit, only I'm using my main desktop computer for this. Now I'm in the BIOS of the Minis Forum PC, and the mouse and keyboard still work, and I can still be in my browser and go back over and do some shopping while I'm waiting for an update, and then come back over, see how my update's doing, everything's happy. I want to check my security settings, as if I cannot do this with remote software when the remote software needs to have Windows in order to run. So we're not in Windows yet. I can install Windows, I can install anything. I can do whatever I can do normally in front of the machine, but now I could be upstairs and still have full access to this machine. I can choose to save and exit if I come over here. I'll just discard my changes and exit. Click OK. And once again, I can go about doing other things instead of sitting here waiting. Or I could sit here and wait and stare at it if I want to. If I'm having some bizarre keyboard or mouse disconnections, there's options up here to reset the human interface device, or HID, that can help resolve those issues. Always make sure you've got the latest application version installed, because that solves those issues as well. Sometimes when computers reboot, they lose USB power. That causes the NanoKVM to restart. If that's the case, it'll ask you to re-log in, or if it's been a while since you've logged in. And this is why I like it so much. I can do everything I need to do. Even I can turn this machine off. If I'm done with it, I just go here and say to shut it down. If I want to, I can enable wake on LAN, enabling me to send what's called a magic packet to wake the computer up, which will start it over the network. So if the computer's off and I want to turn it on through the NanoKVM, I can absolutely do that if your network card supports wake on LAN, which is nearly universal on any computer built within the last couple of years. So let's go back to camera 1. And so really the only part of this process I've got to improve is locating the original IP address. Once I got that part figured out, this whole thing becomes a lot easier. This is only the second time I've done this. So, you know, like anything else you do only twice, you're only going to get better the more you do it. If it's something you only do once, you won't retain the information. You know what I mean? So then you can just continue to go back to the video as a reference when need be if you don't need to retain the info. But the more I do this, the easier it's getting, the more it's making sense, the more my expectations are set correctly. And I didn't have anything to go off of but sparse web pages that cover a little bit of this, another web page covers a little bit of that, a little bit of Reddit talks about this. And what I've done is I've compiled all that together. So what's the gist of it? What are the steps? And the only step I need to improve is locating the damn thing on first time. Once we've located it, it's easy peasy. Iceman mentions that he uses firewall software and IP software. Again, I would not recommend to a common end user to do anything so advanced and potentially open up their network to vulnerabilities. If we're trying to make advanced topic information for advanced users, why would we need to do that?
Why would I want to teach people who already know? And why would we get into very technical subjects to very technical people who already know? What I'm trying to do here, Oystein, is I'm trying to make very easy to follow steps that anybody can follow, that you don't have to have a technical knowledge. You understand what the project is, what it does, and how you might use it. Now, how can we ease these people into getting to the gist of why they bought this to use it, or to at least get it functional so that they can modify it to their needs without getting technical? That's the trick to what my video content is all about. If I get technical and the people I'm talking to understand what I'm saying, there's no point in it. They're already technical people. If you're that level, you don't need this video. It's not for you. And your suggestions aren't helpful because they're not making the process easy. You're keeping your answer technical. And if I could explain your answer to a non-technical person, I would. But for me to do that is a whole nother can of worms that I don't want to open. I'm not trying to turn anybody into a network engineer. I'm just trying to show them how to make this work, and I don't want them having to log into their routers. I need to show an example that everybody can follow regardless of what kind of router they have, regardless of what technical knowledge. I just want to show them on the screen. We want to use as much of Windows, what they already have, and only download what is absolutely necessary. If you've noticed, we only downloaded 2 things. And the only reason we did that is because there's no replacement within Windows for those 2 things. And I know there's a command I can type to find that NanoKVM. I just can't for the life of me remember it. So if I can show an end user, you just type command, and then you don't have to understand what it means. Just follow along. There's your IP address, and now continue to follow along. We're trying to minimize the barrier to entry to show people how easy it is. If anybody's, got a technical solution, then who am I making the video for if that's how we're going to do it? That would mean you already know, and that would negate the whole point of the existence of this video. See what I'm getting at? So I appreciate your suggestion, but try and put yourself in my shoes in what I'm trying to do, which is make it simple, uncomplicated and simple. And by that I mean, let's do something that universally applies to all Windows users. If I show a router, that's not going to universally apply to anybody, unless you just happen to have the same make and model and update of software on the router or firmware. Or you may not even know how to get into your router, or what's a router, and then I got to explain that. You don't need to know that information to take advantage of what this device does. So in that regard, if you're aware of a command prompt or PowerShell command that we can use that could identify the nano on the network, I would certainly appreciate that. And I know there is one, I just can't think of what it is. I'll find it. I thought I had it solved with ARP, but apparently not so much. Oystein recommends IP scanner software. Once again, I do believe we can do that within Windows. I don't want to have to download any software unless it is absolutely required. And I'm pretty sure I've done this before in my history of networking, where I had to locate something and I did not download any third-party software to do it. I just can't remember what it was. If I'm wrong and I realize I have to, then I will update the video accordingly. But I'm pretty sure we can do this another way without any other software download. I could be wrong, but I seem to recall there used to be a command I typed when I was locating things on the network, and it's been such a long time, I can't remember it. Andy wants to know if all the NanoKVMs have the same default name. I don't know. They might. And then, of course, if we knew the default name, we could just ping it. That would be super easy. But I just don't know. I'm too early in this process to You know, think of the testing that would require. We'd have to go back and download previous versions of the images to see if the name always stays the same or if the name changes depending on the version of the image. Or when you're booting from it, does it get assigned the name at some point on that first boot? So even if you're using the same image, will you still get the same name? Is the name derived from the hardware? So if I'm always using the same hardware, I'm always getting the same name, but the minute you buy one, your hardware has different serial numbers if the name is derived like a Windows product ID. Then of course you're going to have a different name as a result. So all of that would take all of the testing, and that would require me buying another NanoKVM and then investing the time to figure out if the name changes. And I'm not going to go through all that for this. There's a better, easier way. I know there is. I just, right now in this moment, I can't think of what the command is. I'm sure somebody watching the video will leave a comment, or I will, off camera, I'll look it up and I'll be like, oh yeah, I already know this. It's just been a long, long time. Or maybe I'm wrong, and maybe an IP scanner is necessary. I don't think it is, though. Oystein says the only reason I'm not seeing it in the ARP list is it wasn't connected to it. Yeah, I don't know. I guess. I mean, I wasn't connected to any computer, and yet ARP showed all the computers I was not connected to. I never connected to the NAS. I never connected to the streamer from here, but yet they still appeared in ARP, despite the fact I never connected to them. So I don't know. Maybe just browsing the network, you know, it appeared in the browser, and maybe that's considered a connection. But for whatever the reason is, clearly ARP is not the answer I'm looking for, regardless of why. Knowing that doesn't help me. So again, if you know of something that helps me, if you know of a command we can type in to locate the nano, I would appreciate that. Telling me why other commands don't work isn't helpful either. We've already established that's not going to work. I don't need, it doesn't matter why. Dwayne says, I guess you could say that using this device does not work out of the box. It has to be configured. So I don't know if you were here in the beginning, Dwayne, but I went over why it makes more sense to buy this. Did you miss this whole part of the video, or did you forget? The reason I ask is it's weird to me to have to repeat what I've already said, and I'm just trying to figure out if you joined late. Oystein says getting a full version with a screen is helpful. It depends. And again, I did cover this in the beginning of this video, so I'm guessing you weren't here and you guys didn't hear this. So this is a little frustrating for me, because when I'm explaining something and you guys come in late and you don't know what you've missed, and you start making suggestions that are repeating back things I've already said, this is why teachers get upset when the students are tardy, right? What did I miss? How did we get here? So now we have to go back to the beginning again. It's a little frustrating for me. And I know you mean well. I know the intent is that you mean well, but it's so frustrating to have to repeat myself. What the information I'm looking for is the command I would type to find the NanoKVM. Everything else, either it doesn't apply or we've already talked about. So if you have a recommendation for what command I would type to locate the NanoKVM, I would sure appreciate that information, please. And if you don't have it, that's fine. Like I said, after the video, the comments will be open, and then other people watching could say, Carey, you're an idiot. This is what it is. Fair enough. I've long since forgotten, but I'm very, very confident we can type in a command to locate this. Andy Kane says, when will the IP address change on the KVM?
It depends on your router and how your router is configured. Generally speaking, the way IP addresses are assigned is based on the order of request. The first thing that gets requested gets the first number available. The second thing that gets requested gets the second thing available. If the first thing turns off, but then a third thing turns on, the third thing may get the IP address that's now freed up from the first thing, but then you turn the first thing on and it'll get the next available, depending on, think of it like USB drives. What drive letter gets assigned to a flash drive? What drive letter gets, you can't answer that question. It depends what you're plugging it into and how many other USB drives or drives you've got, which drive letters are already in use. Every time you unplug the flash drive and plug it back in, or in the case of a KVM, anytime you unplug it from power and power it back on, you're effectively switching it off and back on again. What other IP addresses are in use in the network or started to become in use or have been freed up while it's been off? In much the same way, I can keep plugging a USB drive in, but the minute I plug another USB drive in, that drive letter may be reserved. So when I plug this one in, that drive letter is not available anymore. It becomes the next drive letter. That's what DHCP is supposed to do. It distributes the IP addresses. It wouldn't matter if the IP address changed, so long as I know the DNS name. And since I just named it, all I have to do is look for the name and let the network identify what IP address is currently assigned to it, negating any concern about what IP address it has and negating any concern about how often does it change. Who cares? For all you know, Google's IP address changes every day. You don't know. You just type Google, it auto-resolves through the domain name system and their service, and it translates it for you. That's how this works. So there is no answer to your question that applies to everybody. And that's why DNS exists. It makes this whole process so much easier. But in order to set that up, I have to initially find it. So if I have a screen, such as on this unit here, I can see what's assigned. But if I don't have a screen, then I'm sure there's a command I can type to find it. I just don't know what it is. And once we know the name, not only can we go there directly, but if we were just curious, what's the IP address? You could type the word ping along with the name on your network. And so if I'm looking for logging into my NAS, and I don't know, my NAS IP address can change daily for all I know. I just ping space NAS name, and it tells me what the IP address is. If the IP address comes back as one of those IPv6 hexadecimal, yeah, I just type in ping server name space -4, telling it I want IP version 4, and then I get the regular IP address, a format that I'm looking for, IPv4. And you can have both. You don't necessarily have one or the other. Some devices have both. But again, you don't have to worry about any of that. As long as you know the name, you just work off the name instead of the number. And the number can change as long as the name doesn't. That's the whole point of the name. Dwayne Blackwelder says, what I'm saying is the pre-built unit is what a novice should use. So again, Dwayne, I'm going to guess you just haven't been watching the video. You're just repeating everything I've already said, and I don't know why you think clarifying what I've already said back to me is helpful. I appreciate your intent, but I've already said all this. This is profoundly frustrating because I know your intent is to help, but I don't know how repeating back to me what I've already just said at the beginning of the video is helpful. It's like, why? Try to figure out what's going on. Why are we not communicating? Were you not here? Did you not hear me say it? This is something that really, if there's anything frustrating about doing a live video, it's this. This is the part of it that's because the people doing it, they're not intentionally trolling. They're not aware. They think they're being helpful. Their intention is, I'm trying to help you.
but you're not helping because you're just repeating me. So I'm laughing because I'm frustrated. I'm like, I don't know what to do about this problem. What I thought was, you know, when they do a Broadway show, and that show starts at, say, 6 o'clock, they will close the doors at 6:15 and you cannot enter that show late. If we did that here, if we could allow people into the chat room in the beginning and for the first 10 minutes of the show, and then say nobody else can join the chat room, the door's closed. It's like entering tardy into a classroom. You cannot come into the class now. You've missed too much. And we're not going to repeat it back. You can understand, you know, that would solve the problem. But at the same time, we're also making people unavailable to interact with us because they weren't here early enough. But that's what they do in Broadway shows now. And if you have a suggestion on how I can solve this issue, I'd very much like to hear that as well, because I don't get it. Barry Klein joins us and says hello. Pat Johnston said, is the NanoKVM in discovery mode? I don't believe the NanoKVM has a discovery mode. We're talking about a remote device here. It is not a typical computer that you could browse on the network. It's not designed for that. So that's because it's open source, you could, if you had the talent, if you had the knowledge, you could alter the source code to include that. But that really wouldn't benefit anybody. You know, in other words, if I'm browsing my network and I see this on there, I can't do anything with it. It's just crowding the network browsing. It's not like we're going to use this as a NAS or something like that. It's not what it's for. It's not what it does. So I can see that it probably could be coded in to be discoverable, but then that's also going to take more resources, meaning the code's going to get bigger. And it could also be a security concern that you just may not want it discoverable. There'd be no point in having it discoverable. If it were a traditional like desktop or server or something like that, a NAS, you absolutely want it discoverable. But IoT, do I want to see my cameras? Do I want to see my refrigerator? Do I want to see my phone system? Do I want to see my garage door opener when I browse the network? What's the point? Oystein says, my DNS name for my Nano was KVM-C35D. And then ours was what? Ours was different, wasn't it? You guys can rewind the video and look. I can't. So you could rewind this video and tell me. I don't remember what it was. But if yours is the same as mine, then it sounds like it's always going to be the same. On the other hand, that doesn't sound right. It doesn't sound like what ours was. Not that I'm remembering it exactly, but if somebody wants to rewind the video and tell me what it says, you can confirm that for me. So again, this device isn't really, you know, we talk about novices and such. I'm not sure how a novice would use this, but like the example I gave and how I use it, it's pretty specific. It's pretty niche, but there's nothing I'm doing that a novice user couldn't do or find benefit from. I just, you know, at some point you leave it up to people to decide if they have any use for the tool, even if it's just to play with it, you know, to understand what it does and what it's for, even if you don't have a use for it, you just think it's pretty neat. Because a lot of times what ends up happening is people will say, well, I don't know what I would use that for, but it's so damn cool, I just want to see it working and play with it. And then they conceptualize by actually doing it, by having the experience, right? The video kind of gives you those first 2 steps, and then the next thing you know, you can go running when you were just learning how to walk. So the video is not there to replace an experience. It's there to encourage, if you have any interest, to pursue that on your own, because once you've established the way you understand it, which is different than the way anybody else on the planet will understand it, once that clicks for you, it's probably just a matter of, it could be just hours or days before it occurs to you how you can use this uniquely in your life to solve a problem. You now have a solution. Once you understand what the solution is and how it works, you may not even realize until then that the solution would be beneficial to you. Maybe. If you're living with something because you believe that's how it is, then that's how it'll stay. When somebody introduces a tool to you and they show you this tool is designed to do this one thing that you don't do, but you're like, that looks like a pretty neat tool. It's not expensive. I'm kind of curious. I'd like to get to know this tool a little better. And then you understand it and a light goes on your head and it says, oh, you know what I could use this tool for? Something completely opposite of what they demonstrated. Now it benefits me to have this, and now it helps me. If I had known when this came out last year, what this would do for me, I would have bought one. I would have pre-ordered it. Ignorance is bliss. So the way it starts is, hey, that's a really neat idea. I don't necessarily need to monitor servers, so it's not designed for me, but it's cheap and it seems like a fun little project. And I didn't start with this one. I was never, ever going to buy this one. I want this one so I could start kind of playing with it. And then it occurred to me, is it, you know, does it work? How does it work? And then I'm like, oh, that's how it works. And it was like, well, if that's what it does, then can it solve this problem I have, which nobody on the internet has? I have never seen any conversation that exists on the internet for someone who builds computers to configure those computers from another floor or a different location in the same building. As far as I can tell, I am the only person on the planet using this for that reason. That doesn't invalidate its purpose, but at the same time, why would you promote that use if I'm the only one on the planet that would use it that way? Maybe you're the only person on the planet that would use it in your way. The only one who would know that is you. And the only way you would know that is to visualize the interest. Well, first of all, to have the interest to say, hey, you know, that seems pretty cool. I'd like to see how this works. Get some hands-on experience with it. Better understand. Once you have that understanding, then only you know if that can fill a role for you to solve a problem or make your life easier. And sometimes it just sits like a seed that's been planted in your brain, and 6 months go by, and now you're in a situation and you're like, how can I solve this easy? Oh, that tool from 6 months ago. I got that in a drawer here somewhere. See what I'm getting at? So it kind of starts with a curiosity. And you may already have an idea for how you might want to use it. Or you might not. You might just be fascinated by the concept. And for the price, without any software to pay for, no subscription, it could be just a fun toy to tinker with. And then come to find out, you can't live without it. And that's the point, right? It's just to demonstrate that you don't have to be a technical nerd. You don't have to go, oh, that's far too complicated. Well, then just get this one. If that's too complicated, it's obviously nothing that would ever solve a problem for you. if you have no interest in it. But the minute you have an interest in it, just the interest, even though you have no use for it, you're just interested, that's the doorway that opens up to possibilities. And for everybody else who's like not even interested, don't even waste your time. And then, you know, I was interested. I started with this one, right? I said, this is fantastic. I'm going to get another one. I'm going to get another one. I can use these all over the place. Well, been there, done that. I want more. I'm still hungry. What else can I do? Well, I could buy this little project box just to see what it's like. Okay, I got it. Now what do I do with it? There's no documentation online that covers the setup of this. So guess what? I'll make that. Hence today's video. And I can see that in my documentation, I have a flaw with regards to finding, you know, using the ARP command to find it is not complete. I want to be able to pass this on to the next person, and then everything works precisely the same, regardless of their experience, regardless of their equipment, regardless of what they're connecting. It is universally the same, and regardless of their technical knowledge. And that's the way I try and do all my videos, with a few exceptions. It's all very simple. Just explain it in an easily digestible way with plain English. And if the users are interested, they are. If they're not interested, they're not. I have no control over that. If somebody's not interested, it doesn't matter how well you can explain it. Oystein says the name we got was KVM 5E5F, so it does not match his. You can imagine what the problem could be technically. Let's think about this logically. There's no rule that says you can only have one of these. I can put as many of these on my network as I want. I can remote control as many of these as I want to, or as many computers. I could have, there doesn't have to be one computer on the bench. I could have 5 computers. I could have 50 computers on the bench, so long as each one has their own nano-kvm, but no two can be named the same. Otherwise, how will it know which one I'm trying to connect to? And how will the network be able to communicate if they both have the same name? How does it know which one gets the message I'm trying to send? So logically, you and I can't share the same phone number, can we? Because if somebody dials that number and it goes to your phone, it goes to my phone at the same time, which one of us is going to get the ring? In much the same way, in order to communicate, these must have a unique name, so that if there are multiples on the network, they don't have all the same name, and then you won't even be able to log in to configure it, because it won't know which one you're trying to log into to configure. So it does make sense when you think about it that the host name cannot always be the same. You're presuming you would only have one, but there's no rule that says you can only have one. I could have bought 100 of these. I could have ran 100 cables to them, and I would need 100 different names. Just like phone numbers. I guarantee you do not have my phone number. Otherwise, when people call me, how would it know to ring your phone or mine? The network works the same. The phone system is a phone network. Hopefully that helps you understand the concepts here. Jack Kugelman joins us from Canada, says hello, welcome in, Jack. Andy says he might get one, but maybe he'll wait for the new model. There is a pro version coming out, and needless to say, now that I know what I can do with them, anybody that comes out with a KVM, anybody at this point, I'll be ordering it. I will be on the pre-payment, you know, what do you call that? I'll be one of the first people to order one before they're shipping. Needless to say, the first day that sipeed announced that they have a pro version coming out, like in 6 or 8 weeks, I already paid for it. In fact, I paid for 2 different ones. I'm so excited. If Jet KVM decides to sell back in the US again, probably order a second one of those, although it seems to me by the time they get around to it, they should hopefully have an update to improve the device. Otherwise, they're going to fall behind sipeed and GLINet.
GeoLiNet is on Amazon now. So when it comes to pre-orders, that was the word I wanted. I have a thirst or a hunger for other devices and other ways of IPKVMs that are under $100. But I bought every one on the market. I've got 3 NanoKVMs. I've got 1 Jet KVM and 1 Comet. And then with the tariffs and everything that happened, Chet said we're not available in the US until further notice. That's unfortunate. I don't know how many I need, but if there's a change, if there's an upgrade, so now they're offering a Pro. I don't have a Pro. I feel like they're Pokemon cards. Gotta collect them all. I am just smitten with how these can be used. And my concern is I don't want to just have one and then have to send it out to a customer to solve a problem, and then I don't have it to do my work. So I always want at least one spare one so that I can help a friend or help a family member. For example, they want to put Windows 11 on the computer and I need to get in the BIOS and they live out of state. I'm not going to walk them through that. I don't know. You know, they'd have to like turn on their camera. They're not technical people, or they wouldn't be asking me for help. And I'm not going to go all the way out of state to do a Windows 11 install for them. But I will drop ship one of these from Amazon, so I don't even have to pay for the shipping. Actually, I wouldn't do one of these. I would send them one of these, and I would tell them, plug this in, plug that in. And then what I would do is I would log in to the unit, grab control of their BIOS, turn on secure boot, make sure the BIOS has PTM or TPM enabled or PTT. Then go ahead and do the Windows Update Assistant. Make sure Windows updates are installed after Windows 11 goes on. Just do the normal routine. And then I'll probably tell them to hold on to this. I don't need it back. I'll say, look, just in case something like this were to happen again, where I need remote access outside of Windows, put that away somewhere. It's not worth enough money to have them pay to ship it back. Just keep it. Every other support call after that, I can probably just use Instant House Call, right? It's just getting that Windows 11, getting that latest BIOS, anything BIOS related, this is my solution. Otherwise, I have to physically be there. Or we have to painfully, hold your camera phone up to the screen and let me see if I can read it, and then I can tell you what to look for or what to click on. But with all BIOSes being different from different models and makes of motherboards, it's all different. There's not one standard place I can tell people to go. I have to see it. And if I'm there looking at it, I can do it myself. I don't have to explain to somebody. I can do it in 1/10 the amount of time that it takes to explain it to somebody and have them, no, you don't have it. You're showing me a corner of the screen. I need to see the whole screen. Now it's blurry. I can't see it. It is frustrating to just have somebody click a button and it takes me 10 minutes for them to click that button. With this is much easier. Just tell them to plug it in. Let me grab control. Let me get it done. And then again, these are so inexpensive, they can just keep it and put it away just in case something should happen where we need BIOS access. I don't anticipate that'll ever happen because again, from that point forward, we're just back to remote software within Windows to solve any other issues, printer can't print or whatever they're calling about. The only reason that I would need to go out would be if I had to turn a screwdriver. That's it. So if there's a hardware issue and they're out of state, I'm going to just tell them, take it to a local repair place, because the cost of me coming out is going to cost a lot more than probably what the computer repair would cost done locally. And I cannot fix a power supply remotely. I'm not going to walk them through it over the phone either. Yeah, Oystein and Andy mentioned the word pre-order. That was the word I was looking for. Thank you.
All right, guys, we are at a little over 2 hours of today's show already. And I didn't expect it was going to go this long, only because I thought I had all my documentation good. But, you know, this is how we keep improving it, making it better. And I will do some research tonight and try and figure out what that command is that I can't remember that we can use to locate a network device. As I mentioned, when you have a Synology or a TerraMaster or QNAP, they all have these devices. ASUS Store, they have a little app finding assistant, or let me rephrase, it's a NAS finding assistant app. It's a little program you run on your computer that looks for their devices. Because their devices are not necessarily broadcasting on the network, you have to go and search them out. When you have a small network like here, I only have 5 or 6 things plugged in. It's not that hard. But if you're in an office and they're using 150 IP addresses, the way I showed, even if that did prove to be functional, would be impractical, right? To have to compare side by side where any differences are. So I know there's a command. The other thing is, if there is a specific app designed to locate these in the same way that a NAS has an app designed to locate the NAS, and that's all the app does, then I'll make an exception to downloading a piece of software. But preferably, we just open the command prompt and we run the command and we find it. I'm sure there's some kind of a command to scan. Just can't think of what it is. We might even just look and see what port this is open on this, and if it's a default port, just look for, you know, how many default ports are open on our network. That would be one workaround, but that's even kind of sloppy. It's not so precise unless that port is odd. But then if it was, it wouldn't have brought us to the login without us entering that specific port, so that can't be it either. I'm out of practice. It's been a while. In the meantime, if you guys decide that you want to take on this project, I hope the video at least gets you there and that you can figure out the obstacles that you encounter. If not, you know, you're always welcome to email us for help, and we'll do what we can to help you. If you don't want to take on a project like this, then, you know, buying it pre-assembled is cheaper, by the way, and you get the screen. So you have options, and again, it may not be anything that you would ever use, and it may not apply to you. And that's why I try to make a variety of content, so that way we're making content for everyone, but not at the same time. That's the idea. Barry says you can ping the network's broadcast address and the device's MAC should appear in the ARP table. So what I need is the command, right? I don't need the explanation of what, I know what I'm trying to do. What I would need to know is step by step. You know, are we opening PowerShell? Are we opening the command prompt? Are we running it as administrator? What is the command we will type at the command prompt? And how will we identify in the results of that command which item is the NanoKVM if we don't know its MAC address? If we have no screen to identify any of the hardware, how do we know the MAC address any more than we know the IP address? Therein lies the little trick to it. And again, without logging into a router, without looking at a firewall software, without getting it complicated, how do we make this easy so anybody can simply follow this along, even if they're not very technical? That's the goal. And if you can help me achieve that goal, I would love to see the steps. Not the explanation, the actual steps. And I would certainly appreciate that. In the meantime, I have my project for tonight. I'll do a little research on it. when I struggled getting this to go on the first live video we did with it, it wasn't 20 minutes before I was done. In other words, I struggled during a live video to figure something out because my full focus and attention isn't on this. It's also on the camera, it's on the connection, it's on the chat room, and I'm split 4 different ways. My attention is completely divided. After the video was done, then I took a little break and got some food, said, okay, I'm ready to come back at this again. I took it upstairs on the laptop, Googled it, and within 20 minutes it was up and running, no big deal. So I anticipate that's going to be the same thing. I'm probably going to, off camera after the show, I'll probably get something to eat. And I'm like, yeah, I think I'm going to just Google this. I'll probably find it in 5 minutes, test it, and then I will adjust the notes, the video description to accommodate. If not, it's not rocket science to write some basic code to look for an identifier. I'm sure it's got an identifier. And it's probably already done. And how are other people doing it, right? I'm not inventing the wheel here. I'm not the first one to do this. So likely there's already been this discussion, probably multiple times, and I just need to search it out. And I'm sure the answer's already there. So hopefully, if not, well, then I'll make the answer myself. Necessity is the mother of invention. I'm capable of it. Coding something like that is probably incredibly simple code. So the problem is finding people that are willing to do the work. There's a lot of people that talk about it. There's a lot of people that'll say, wouldn't it be great if somebody did that? Well, do it. You're somebody. Well, I don't know how. Well, how else are you going to learn? You could probably even tell AI to write the code for you at this point. You go, holy cow, that was easy. Why didn't anybody do that? Great question. Why didn't you do it earlier? Why were you waiting on somebody else to open the door for you? You've got 2 hands, open the door. Anyway, that's the way I see the world. I don't want to work to do a job that's already been done. So my first attempt is to simply Google to see, has this already been resolved? If I spend a little bit of time on that and I feel like, okay, it's just not out there, then it's like, okay, well, I'm going to write this myself. Can I get AI to write it for me? What I need to know additionally is what's the identifier we're looking for. Once we have the identifier, it's simple to write the code to look on the network for it. That's why these NAS assistants, they're very tiny little apps. They're very simple applications. You don't have to be a programmer to program apps like that. They're super easy stuff. And like I mentioned, with using AI, you can often just tell AI and it'll write it for you. But my hope is that this device has been out long enough that these discussions have already happened, and all I have to do is go find existing discussions and how they resolved it, and then just include that, because that's how we got to this point. I found a little bit of discussion about the memory card. I found a little bit of discussion about Etcher versus Rufus. I found a little bit of discussion about what's the image you're supposed to be using and where is it located. Then I found another part of the discussion about how do you use Etcher. Anyway, and my goal is to take all of that, because I needed all of it, but put it all in order in one place. And this is just another piece of that. It's probably out there, and I just have to grab it and then stick it in the list of process order. And that way anybody can easily follow along, even if they're not technical people. That's my goal. That's always my goal. Just make it easy. Keep it simple. Leave out anything that doesn't have to be there. Only do the bare necessities. Don't make it fancy. Don't overcomplicate it. You walk into the cockpit of an airplane, and what do you see? An overwhelming amount of dials and switches and lights and gauges, like walls to ceiling. Even in the center console, throttle, altimeter. I was doing the horizon thing. All of this stuff. But let's say you're not a pilot, you're the cleaning crew, and all you want to know how to do is turn the damn light on so you can see what needs to be cleaned. See what I'm getting at? What I'm trying to do is make it very clear and apparent that whether you're a pilot or a cleaner, everybody needs the light. So that should be very easily located and obvious. When you start to become a specialist, then that's for you to define. That only matters for you. All that stuff for the pilots doesn't matter to me. I'm not a pilot. But everybody needs to be able to turn a light on and off. So that's the way I see the world. I'm not going to tell you all the complicated technical ways to set this up. I'm going to show you the easiest way possible to encourage you, if you have even an ounce of curiosity, that you can explore that with confidence. Now, at the end of the day, what do you do with it? That's up to you. Maybe the whole point for you is to have that experience, nothing more. When it comes to education, this is a lot cheaper than a classroom in a college. This is a bargain for this education. How you apply your education, that's up to you. And I think with that, we'll wrap it up. I want to thank everybody for being members and for hanging out with us. And Andy says he's got to have the screen. Yeah, I don't blame you. If that's a prerequisite for you to have the screen, as far as I know, there must be a way to add the screen. Like the screen they're putting in here, I bet you can buy that screen and you can add it yourself. But now you're going to have two pieces without a case that are just going to, you know, what keeps them from slamming into each other or short-circuiting. For me, that doesn't make any sense. Why not just buy it already built? You know what I mean? But yeah, I suppose if you wanted to build your own 3D case, you could do that too if you have a 3D printer. I'm sure there are slice files online that are free and open source to download. You'll notice that heatsink is much, much bigger on this than this heatsink over here. And is that just because they had a hole to fill in the case design, or is there, I mean, nothing about the screen would add any heat. So you are getting a better heatsink, though. It's not like this one's inadequate. It's working the same. I don't know. I really don't know. But it's all customizable if you want it to be, or you can just buy it already assembled. Either way, the screen absolutely removes any mystery of what's going on in the boot process. It does tell you, okay, it's booted and here's the IP address. Once you've got that information from the screen, you never need to see the screen ever again. Even if you could just temporarily hook a screen up to it just to get that initial DNS name set. But I'm sure there's an easy workaround for it. I'm sure there is. All right, that'll wrap it up for me for today. Thank you guys for hanging out, and appreciate your feedback and hanging out and interacting. Thank you, of course, to our friend Buster. Thanks to Charlie Purdy, as always. And thanks to all of the members who make these videos possible. We will be back again. I think I'm broadcasting tomorrow. I have a couple of projects, but I need to make sure I've got everything to move forward with them. So likely I'll be live tomorrow at 1 o'clock as normal. I hope you guys get through the heat of this week. It's going to be very hot all over the United States. And stay inside, stay safe, enjoy your weekend, and I look forward to seeing you all very soon. Thank you, of course, to our channel administrator, Mara, who does our thumbnails and video descriptions, and our friends over at SCD Keys. Just as a reminder that SCD Keys has those discounted Windows and Office keys. So I just bought one yesterday for the build we did yesterday. After the show, I went to SCD Keys. The price has gone up. It used to be $15.72 for a Windows 10 Pro key, and now it's $17. It's gone up like $1.50. Still a bargain, though. I know with confidence it's going to work. I know with confidence if for any reason it doesn't work, they've got a 24-hour chat system and they'll fix it. They'll give me a new key. They'll do whatever it takes. So I know I can buy a key for probably $3 somewhere, but I have no idea if that key will work. And if I have any problems, they're just going to tell me nothing. They probably won't even answer emails. So you get what you pay for. I don't want to gamble with license keys, especially when a customer's purchasing systems from me, because that makes me look bad. So I need to have backup. So if I have a problem, if I sell a customer a computer, let's say I sell you a computer, and 6 weeks from now you have some issue with your license key,
because I sourced it somewhere else and they just abandoned me. They won't answer my questions. I now have to buy you a new key, or I tell you, too bad, it's your problem, and then you're mad at me because you think I ripped you off. So instead, I'd rather spend just a little bit more, get that legitimate product key, and should that incident occur, which likely never will because it's a legitimate product, even if it did, I still have 6 months of support that I can reach out to who I bought it from, say, hey, this stopped working, and they can either give me a new key or tell me what's wrong so that I can fix it for you, my customer, and you can say, thank you, you took care of me, it's not costing me any money, it's not costing you any money. And there's this whole peace of mind that there is a support system behind what you're getting. If you don't want the support system, you can save money, but you're also rolling dice. You're optimistic that everything's going to work out okay, and you understand if it doesn't, you're just going to have to keep repurchasing over and over again endlessly, potentially, since if you're shopping for just price alone, you've got no backing because there's no money to be paying those people. If you really want the ultimate, you can pay $150 to Microsoft for the same license key, if that gives you even more peace of mind. In my case, I'm building how many computers a month? If at $150 each one I had to pay, or $199 for Pro, I'd be out of business. I just can't compete at that price point if I'm passing that on to the customer. So you can pay too much and you can pay too little, is what I'm trying to get at. There's consequences to paying too much. There's consequences to paying too little. This is the lowest price that I'm aware of that you can get a legitimate copy of Windows from any source anywhere online that is supported and backed up and is 100% legit. If you're aware of anything less, if we can get the exact same support with the exact same legitimate license keys, and it'll cost you guys less, please let me know. I am bringing this to your attention because as far as I know, this is the only one at this price that offers that support and guarantees the legitimacy of those licenses. Okay? So if I'm aware of anybody that's less expensive but otherwise offers the same sense of security and support, then we're going to go to them and start promoting theirs. I just want you to know that. That's going to wrap it up. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you all again very, very soon. Until next time, bye for now.